welcome everyone to another edition of the Get Up and Go Show. This is Anne-Marie of the Art of Healing. Today it is my distinct pleasure to introduce to you the amazing metaphysical Kelsey Fahrenbruch. She is a dear friend and she has been gracious enough to work with me for quite a few years. And her specialty, or something that she works with on a regular basis, is the aspected consciousness of the soul. So I look forward to this conversation, and without further ado, I introduce to you Miss Kelsey Fahrenbruch. So welcome, Kelsey, to the Get Up and Go Show.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
Oh, it's such a pleasure, such a pleasure. So I kind of explained that we've known each other for a few years. You've helped me out and channeled for me, but please tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do.
My name is Kelsey Fahrenbruch, and my work is with Guided by Love Consciousness. That's just my page that you can reach me through. Most of my work has evolved into working with the various aspects of consciousness or the soul. It wasn't what I was intending to go into, but as my healing emerged, it is where the universe took me. So I would say it's I'm losing track of thought now. So a lot of it has to do with the aspects of your own soul, and we have a wide range of aspects, an entire bandwidth from the dark to the light and everything in between. And I help others come to terms with that and also work and heal those parts of ourselves that sometimes we deem unlovable.
Wow. That's very fascinating. Now, we will certainly talk much more about that topic. I want to pull out a little bit more personal information from you, like whereabouts do you live? Tell us a little bit more about the 3D.
Okay.
Kelsey.
So I live in Columbus, Ohio, in the United States, so not too far from you, Anne-Marie. And I am a mother. I have a 17-year-old daughter, so you can imagine how that goes. She's a wonderful kid. And I basically 3D stuff. I love hiking and foraging. That is my forte. I went through a phase for quite a few years where I felt like I had no passion. I just couldn't find it in the physical world, and I kept praying through my thoughts, like, give me something, anything. And it ended up being mushroom hunting and identification. And literally I go out almost every single day searching for mushrooms and edible plants. And so that's a big part of my everyday life, is just spending a lot of time in the woods.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah, it is nice. And it's free food,
There you go. There you go. Now, is your daughter affected by this? Was her school shut down at all?
She's doing homeschool, so she's almost done that. Yeah, the regular system didn't really support her. She's a pretty sensitive kid and lots of anxiety, and it wasn't a good system for her.
Mm-hmm.
As far as this, not a lot has changed. She's been pretty proactive in the Black Lives Matter movement, so she's been doing a lot of protesting and volunteering downtown, but right now it's a little crazy and chaotic where we live, so she's been a little bit more distant just to keep her safety at the forefront. Other than that, not a lot has changed. I'm quite the introvert, so not a great deal has shifted in my life, but holding a lot of space for all those beings whose lives have drastically changed, because I know it's affecting many.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. So I have had a couple, we first knew each other online through our spiritual community, Channeling Jesus in Ananda. And then we finally got to meet each other in person a couple years ago. Can you talk to us about when you began your spiritual journey? Like, how did you start being the metaphysical person that you are?
Yeah, so I had always talked to spirit and had communications with spirit ever since I was a child, a heightened awareness, I would say. And in my teenage and early 20s, I would have mediumship abilities slowly arise, but it would be beings who had passed over, and they would pop up in my awareness or consciousness and ask, for me to give messages. And so I spent a lot of time. That was always very exciting to me. So I did spend a lot of time reading books about mediumship, but nothing ever about channeling. It was always about loved ones who had passed over.
Mm-hmm.
So then about 5 years ago, I was going through a really dark space in my life, and kind of lost everything I owned in a very important relationship and partnership. And during that time, I had my Kundalini awakening. And it wasn't one of those pretty, airy-fairy Kundalini awakenings, because I really hadn't done the work. I hadn't healed my fears and worked through a lot of things. And so when it happened, it was scary and overwhelming. And what happened was I had what felt like telepathy just turned on instantaneously. And I could hear what felt like and sounded like sometimes hundreds of beings talking at me or to me. And so that was very, very scary and overwhelming. And luckily, my college education is in psychology and mental health. So I knew that I wasn't schizophrenic or anything like that. I knew that this wasn't in that realm of sickness, but I didn't understand what was happening. And so that got a little difficult for me for quite a few years. And that's actually how I found channeling Jesus and Ananda, because I was having guides coming through simultaneously with some of these other beings, and Jesus being one of them. So I, got online and looked up channeling Jesus, trying to get some understanding. And that's when I found Tina's work and A Course in Miracles. And that really shifted me into the right direction and helped raise me up out of fear and understand the beings that I was hearing and the beings that I was inundated with at times. So it was a difficult journey, but it served me well in many ways, especially regarding aspects and loving, what we would call the darkness.
Yeah. Yeah, wow, that's incredible. My life was touched quite a bit with darkness in the past, and we kind of had that similarity in our journey. Right now, what is your relationship with those beings, and do they fit in your life at all? Are they a part of this that you are right now?
A little bit of both. So yes, there's some beings. There was a primary being, I will say, who at first I thought they were reptilian, but they weren't. They're just a non-physical being. And they were like the primary instigator. I dealt with things like possession, and I never even believed in possession. It was not something, at least here as Kelsey, that I held really any stock in, but it happened to me, and it was awful and horrendous. And so a few of these beings are a part of my life now, and I had done everything during that time, read every book that you could and every practice in terms of entity attachments and, protecting yourself. And none of it worked, and none of it got rid of these beings. And so after about 2 years of just continually going through this, I was like, there has to be another way, because literally nothing is working at all. And, I can see why my soul set it up that way. It was like, this lifetime, you're going to face it, and you're going to face it over and over again until you learn how to love it. And that's what I learned to do. And so once I couldn't get rid of these beings, I just started accepting their presence and their manipulation sometimes in my life and my mind. And I just kept meeting them with love and meeting them with kindness. And I can remember almost instantaneously when I made the choice to meet this one singular entity with loving kindness and compassion. It was like their malevolent exterior just melted away, and they changed drastically in that singular moment. Now, of course, they still kind of fell off the wagon every now and then, and they would go back to their old ways, but we would start engaging in conversations and just being real with each other, because we realized at this point, there's no getting rid of each other. And I think they found me with the intentions of causing some problems or, playing some games. But ultimately what we came to find out is that we are the same soul. My higher self's name is Rana. A lot of beings have heard from Rana in my channeling sessions. And so they are Rana as well. I didn't know that at the time. They didn't know that. Neither one of us knew that we were the same being or the same soul. But it was like both sides, because I would identify myself here as Kelsey, as pretty light and uplifting, kind. They kind of took on that darker role, and we were just put together to unify and to integrate. And so now they are not like fully integrated in the sense of they've disappeared. They are still there, but they are integrated with the higher self. They are kind, they are loving. We talk almost every day. And I have complete awareness of them, and they have complete awareness of me in every moment. Because they're non-physical, it's not like I have awareness of a space that they're in or a realm, but I do have awareness of their consistent thoughts and feelings and emotions.
Wow. So they, in a sense, are what we were talking about earlier, the aspect of your oversoul. Mm-hmm. So we know of a couple people in our group who are indeed aspects of each other's soul, but they are two individuals incarnated with completely separate lives. Yeah. Can you kind of explain why that would happen to us? Like, does that happen to everyone? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, I guess it does in the sense of not maybe in the same time, space, reality. Our soul manifests and creates itself in many different ways that are very, very different, from one another. I think it would be for them a leveling up, because, that's what this experience was for me in this aspect, a leveling up. You see it very often in the twin flame. We were talking about that before, how that can be two aspects of the same soul, but then to bring two aspects of the same soul to come in and work together and be friends, but also have very, different personalities and journeys. I think that is so beautiful and probably challenging at times too, because you are faced with seeing, this is me. And I'm sure there's probably a lot of acceptance in that too. Like, that's actually me. It's pretty phenomenal, but I don't think it's as uncommon as one might think, because even before we had found out that information about these two beings, because they shared with us freely, which I'm so grateful for. I had these conversations before, like, how common is it for you to have another incarnation of yourself in the same time, space, reality? And though it's not incredibly common, it happens fairly often. So I think for those who are reaching those final stages of their journey and really looking to have super intimate and loving experiences with themselves, that's a great, option and creation of the soul.
That's just so fascinating to me.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating. So in this time, are you getting any messages of, we've just gone through this COVID virus. We're going through kind of the wave of the tragedy of this fellow who was murdered. And I don't want to get, too far into that. But in all your meditations and your communications, what do you see for anything for our next few months? Any information or downloads or anything that you are want to share with us?
I mean, surprisingly, I haven't got a great deal regarding that, except a constant reminder it's going to be okay, you
Yeah.
know? And I think, too, I've been kind of dabbling in, like, the conspiracy theories and, like, what's real and what isn't. Maybe sometimes getting a little bit lost in the story or the illusion, you know? So lately, I would say these past 2 months, I've been doing a deep inner healing in a way that has been unlike anything else, because usually I'm working through something and I can feel whatever it is I'm working through on like a cellular and energetic and ethereal level, but I couldn't pinpoint it and say, oh, it's that thing, or I'm working on fear of this or lack or whatever it might be. You know, I keep hearing from a lot of beings things are going to get worse before they get better, which I do understand when systems collapse or when they're shown to the world, because that's what's happening. All these systems have been here for so long. It's not like it's really anything new, but now the collective is starting to see it. I just keep getting reminded over and over, like, it really is going to be okay, and that, you know, all of our safety is guaranteed, because we as the people who are watching this, that are in these spiritual groups, we have been doing the work for a while our souls, you know, each said unto themselves, like, we're going to go into this life, we're going to help, we're going to contribute to the collective, but we're also going to prepare ourselves before shit hits the fan, you know. And I think that's what a lot of us have done, because we know about like the first waves and the second waves of, you know, awakening. And so all of us that are watching this are clearly in this first wave. So I think for those of us here, we've done a lot of work. I mean, I feel like I've done work all day, every day for years. I mean, it was just constantly working through something in my mind, healing something, whatever. And so I can only imagine that's probably the case for most other people. So just a consistent reminder of, like, you really will be all right. You might see the world fall apart in certain areas, and you might also feel the collective fear, because we are empathic, and it isn't necessarily easy to shut off yourself or distance yourself from other beings' feelings and thoughts and emotions. So, you know, I think we just have to be gentle on ourselves, and when we're able to provide strength for our brothers and sisters, do so. But also know that if you need that time for yourself, or you need a moment to honor those aspects of you that are scared, or honor those aspects of you that are very fearful, or, you know, whatever emotion it is coming up, to be really gentle with yourself and also provide that love to those aspects. And that brings it back to like another approach, is that we have these tiny nuances and feelings within us, you know, and sometimes we'll call those the ego, and we override that feeling and we ignore it and we move on. But a lot of times these are aspects of you. And so there are aspects and forms of entity versions of you. Like, I myself feel like I have so many non-physical versions of myself that are entities unto themselves. Every soul manifests itself different, but they are thought forms, energies, you name it, other lifetimes. And so when you have these tiny little feelings coming up, be gentle to them, be loving to them like they were your own child, you know. Cradle that part of yourself and say, okay, I know you're scared, or I know you believe in, you know, these beings who wish each other harm, or whatever it might be, and just be really kind to yourself and to those aspects, and you'll watch yourself heal drastically.
I think what you just said can be applied to our relationship with anybody that we run into. You know, if we believe in unity consciousness, then indeed everyone out there is a fractal and an aspect of ourselves in one form or another.
Absolutely.
And that's such a beautiful thing that you bring up. And, you know, judgment is, we live in such a culture of judgment. And it's so easy to point a finger, and it's so easy to just vomit vile on another person for having a different opinion. And what you bring and what you just said is such a balm. It is such a beautiful way to think about that voice that is contradictory to yours, that the ego wants to just pounce on. But we have to really, really pay attention to our emotions, and we really have to understand that we cannot, it's the whole turn the other cheek principle that, Jesus, when he was incarnate, put forth. If we hit the other person, we're hitting ourselves. So, oh, beautiful. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, so beautiful.
And that's an approach that you can use too, in terms of, say that you see someone who their opinion differs from you greatly, and you might say, geez, this person is ridiculous. But because it's a reflective universe, you literally could not witness that person unless that existed within you. So with just simple meditation practice, because for all of us, everything's within us, go in and find that aspect of yourself that is them. And I promise you, you will feel parts of yourself that you've never felt before. And if you're a channel or a medium, you very well might also hear them talking to you. And you get to meet a version of yourself that is creating that outside reflection. And then by loving this new version that you've never met, this aspect of you, you start to heal that outside reflection, and you don't see it anymore because you've healed it within yourself. So it's a easy practice and quite fun, but sometimes a little overwhelming, because you will meet versions of you that you might be very surprised that you've had. But the love that takes place in that unification and knowing the self is literally the best feeling that I could never explain.
Yeah. Oh, that's just so beautiful. Did you happen to bring a beverage of choice by any chance today? A vessel of choice? Ooh, I like that mug.
Thank you. I did like a next level training. It was like to heal the mind and remove any boundaries within yourself or blocks. And one of my team members gave this to me, and it was a really nice little gift.
Yeah, it's one of those really good size. This is a pattern of dishware that I found.
Yes.
After I actually got it 3 years ago, I'm remembering, because when you use things every day, they hold memories for you. And when I remained in the house that I was married in with my children, and, every object reminds you of something. And I'd been looking for different flatware, because just different plates, and just to just remove the memory, just to change it up a little bit. And I found this really lovely set, and it wasn't, it wasn't that cheap, but I got a set of 4 plates and 4 bowls and 4 little plates and 4 mugs.
Nice.
So, yeah, and I would just really love them. It's really, about the mandala and nature, and it's very pretty. So I'm happy with that purchase.
It's always nice. I have so many memories. I'm just shifting something on my screen here. So many memories of I know it's totally off topic, but the plates that my grandmother had, or, all the memories around it. Then you go to the thrift store and you see little snippets of it, and just all these memories flood in. So,
yeah, it's important, I think, to surround yourself with things that bring you joy and comfort, not that you're, but genuine joy and genuine comfort. So that's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
I agree with you there. I find a lot of us, myself included, sometimes, will we learn that the physical world is not real. And I know that not all spiritual beings believe that, and that there are a lot of spiritual practices that do believe that this is real and that it is not an illusion. And I'm not even quite sure where I stand on that. I go back and forth with, is it illusion, is it not? Regardless, I do think that it's very important to enjoy some of the things that we have in this physical world. You know, I'll see people feel bad about like eating baked goods or sweets, and I'm like, no, enjoy it. Love that thing. You know, it's not all negative. It's not all unloving. It's only what you decide to attribute to it. So if you decide that chocolate cake is unloving, well, by God, it will be. You know, if you decide that it is so good and such a blessing on this earth, then it will be. So enjoy the things in the physical world that make you feel good, and, you know, especially be willing to work through the things that maybe you have unloving thoughts about, because it might not actually be what you think it is.
You know, if you're not, well, honoring my environment was a huge growth process. I was never the kind of person that really took into consideration how things, like if something was unrepaired, didn't bother me. Like it just didn't enter into my mind, you know, oh, this is in the wrong place, I have to move it. It just really never entered my mind. But then when I got to the bottom, my bottom of the barrel, I was introduced to this person who instilled in it, who kind of like woke me up to the fact that your home should be your refuge and your peace. If it's falling apart around you, if your items are not tendered, then that's a reflection of something that's not tended inside of you. Yeah. So I often, so now I take great care in, you know, I'm still cluttery. I'm never going to not be cluttery, but at least you know, I'm making more of an effort to what I see, that it be peaceful to my eyes, so that it in turn is peaceful to my soul. So, you know, it doesn't mean you have to spend copious amounts of money for, you know, a $5,000 countertop or something like that. You know, that's not what I'm talking about. But when my ex-husband left, I live in a very old house, 100 and some odd year old house. Oh, wow. There was like literally plaster falling off the walls, cracks in the ceiling, the windows didn't function. And it was a reflection of how I felt about my marriage, how I felt about myself. Everything was falling apart, literally, in the house. So I guess just my own little lesson to everybody: when you take care of your interior, it behooves you to take care of your exterior. It's like, enjoy these things. Make your homes comfortable. Make your homes solid and steady, and you know, I guess give the same love to where you inhabit as you do to this habitation in your brain, you know?
Absolutely. I think I kind of had a different experience, because at the beginning of my awakening, or like my bottom of the barrel, I had split up with a partner I was with for a very long time, and it was a really bad breakup, and they kept everything I owned, and it was like impossible. So I lost everything, and I didn't have like the home that I lived in, and I didn't have all my items. And so I was able, through that process, of course, initially I was very heartbroken and upset and, you know, ashamed, like, how could this have happened? But in that process of like losing everything in the physical world around me, I learned to become really okay and be able to access this level of happiness without all of these things. As a single mom, I always equated a lot of my happiness and my joy with the house and the life I was able to provide for my daughter. And, losing all that, I was forced to go in and find that happiness. And because of all the voices and all the entities, I wasn't able to work like I was able to before. So buying things and just refurnishing everything really quickly wasn't really an option, because I was just trying to find my way through this telepathic muck. And so it was a really beautiful experience in the end to be able to access that level of happiness outside of my physical world. But I'm getting to where you're at now, where I'm starting to put a lot more time and energy and love back into this home, because I went one direction to find my happiness inside, and now I'm coming back to like, okay, let's focus back on the exterior, let's fix this up a little bit. But interesting.
Yeah. But do you find that what you choose, what you purchase now, or what you bring into your space has much more intention and meaning behind what you have?
Yeah, absolutely. This plant is my new purchase, and
good.
Oh, it's so beautiful. But yes, so now I do, definitely pay a lot more attention to what little things I buy, but I also have a level of gratitude that I never had before. I would buy a pot to put a plant in and it would be no big deal, or I'd buy sheets for the bed and it would be no big deal. But after losing everything, and I didn't lose it just once, I lost it twice. So it was like the universe definitely gave me a couple kicks in the behind there for a while. But now I have gratitude for every little thing, like dishes and towels and plants and you name it. My level of gratitude is like through the roof, and I never had that before. I mean, I was grateful, but not like I am now.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. What's popping in my head is that the Course teaches us that nothing is relevant, or I do not understand anything that I see, and these things aren't relevant. And I don't think the Course means that that nothing is relevant per se. You know what I mean? Yeah. If we place undue, what was the word that was coming into my head? Undue possession or undue value onto these objects, then that's where the ego comes in. Oh no, I absolutely love this, blah, 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 and I'll die without it. We have a lot of exaggerations of emotion when it comes to possession. And I hope nobody thought that's what I meant, because I didn't mean it that way. Mm-hmm. I think it meant what I wanted to bring forth was the genuine appreciation for my surroundings and how I owe it to myself to love the extension of myself, which is my dwelling.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting you mention that specific lesson, because that has been something that has been reverberating within my reality for the last few weeks here, because it's like I'm starting to have these layers removed, and it always takes me back to that exact lesson of like, nothing is as I think it is, or nothing I see is what it is. Because before I would see things, and I don't even know if I could give you an example, because it's just like random things that are occurring here and there. But I would see something and I would be like, oh, that's a person mowing their lawn. No big deal. I'm just giving an example. But then now I'm starting to have these layers removed, and I'm starting to see the love behind it all. And it's in really odd places where our ego would say, oh, it's this, or oh, it's that. And now as that's starting to dissipate, I'm starting to see the God within it all, or the love behind it. And so I'm like, oh, now it's clicking. Nothing that I see is what I think it means. I've been giving it this meaning this whole time. And maybe this is why they say everything is God and everything is love, because in truth it actually is. And does that make the physical world all that? I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see how many more layers, become revealed. But it's funny that you mentioned that, because that has been pretty constant for me lately.
That. That's really beautiful. When you were speaking, my ears were popping, popping, popping. So it was like a really powerful reaction inside of me. That is so beautiful. Where can you be found if anybody wants to reach out to you for your services? Yeah.
So I do various different kinds of sessions. If people want to reach out, I do the aspected consciousness sessions. I do channeling of guides or higher selves, and everything in between. Most of the sessions are co-created, so we just kind of flow with it with our guides as needed. If you would like to reach me, you can email me at guidedbyloveconsciousness@gmail.com. If you are friends with me on Facebook already, you can just reach out to me there. Or if you would like to reach out to me from my work page on Facebook, which is also Guided by Love Consciousness. And my name is Kelsey Fahrenbruch, so you can find me anywhere in between there. So
excellent. And I'll put all those links in the description below this video. Thank you, Kelsey, you beautiful, amazing being, for spending some time with me today. And thanks to everyone who's viewing out there in YouTube land. May you find love and inspiration in your life to get you up and go. Blessings to everyone. Thank you, Kelsey.
thank you, Anne. I love you so much.
Oh, I love you too, sweetheart. Aww.